Hi everyone. This is my video on how to migrate a project from ArcMap into ArcPro. As most of you are aware, there's a new version of ArcGIS software out there. It's called ArcPro. It is a 64-bit application, whereas ArcMap is a 32-bit application, which means ArcPro is newer, it's faster, and it is where everyone that's using GIS will migrate eventually. I'm going to show you how to migrate an ArcMap project into ArcPro, and then we'll talk a little bit about getting around in ArcPro and how to get some use out of it. This is an ArcMap project that I created. It's got address points, parcels, plats, sections, townships, aerial photography. This is your standard project, and we're going to migrate this into ArcPro. This is what the ArcPro button looks like. And one of the interesting things about ArcPro that they've done is if you right click on it, it'll show you all the projects that are out there. So if you've been working on a project, you can right click on it and quickly get back to the project you were working on. If you haven't been working on any, or if you're a brand new user, this will be blank. So we'll just go with ArcPro to start with. And one of the things that you will notice with ArcPro, number one, there's a software update available. We'll click off that. You can see that it's Ryan and it's First District Association of Local Governments. This means that I have a Esri user ID and a login. And if you're going to use ArcPro, you need your Esri login. If you have a copy of ArcMap already, you have an Esri login. You may not know what it is, but you have one. And if you are a member of First District, we can work with you to provide you with one of these Esri logins if you want one. But this is how you get into ArcPro. If you don't have a login, you can't get into ArcPro. So this will be one of the things that you'll need to do when you start your migration and start using this new software. At this screen, you can see all the recent projects that I've been working on. And here is the different templates that you can start with. What I like to do is just start without a template. So we'll click Start Without a Template, and this is going to bring us up the startup for ArcPro. It looks similar to ArcMap in that there's a contents pane, and then we got some stuff up on top here. One of the things that it shows up by default usually is your catalog right here. This is your default. So we have the catalog over here on the right side. The first thing that you want to do out of the gate once you open a project like this for the first time is add folder. If you add a folder connection and then navigate to the folder where your stuff is, maybe it's called GIS. Maybe it's called, Cottington County or something along those lines. Mine is in the WorkGIS folder, and it's called Training 2022. This is the folder that I want to add. Once I click OK on that, nothing really changes here. But when you look at the folders, it shows up in Training 2022. And what I want to do is I want to make this my default folder. Because the default folder that they give you is this right here. I don't know where it is. And honestly, I don't care. But they give it a folder somewhere. And we want to update this as quickly as possible. So what I will do is I will right click on Training 2022 and click Make Default. Once that little house switches from this folder down to this one, you know that this is my default folder. And then I'll take it the next step farther and remove this by right clicking on this and saying remove. That way I don't put any information into it accidentally. Another thing that you can do is you can create additional folder connections by just right clicking and saying add folder connection, or you can do that up here. Either way, if there's data in another place that you might want to add, you can also put that in here. Like I'll do my work GIS folder right here. So I've got my GIS folder and my training folder. The next thing you want to do is go to your connections and add the database that you'll be working in. The best way to do that once you've done your folder connections is go to folders, and then this will specify which folder you're going to be working in. So we'll double click Training 2022 and we can say that I've got a Training 2022 geodatabase. So we'll click on that and say OK. And then when we click the little open arrow to the left of our databases, we can see our Training 2022 geodatabase. And I want to right click on that and make it default to get it off this default geodatabase that comes standard. And then I'm going to remove that geodatabase as well. So this is looking pretty good. We have our geodatabase and we have our folder. The next thing that we can do is import our map. And we do that right here where it says import map. They've made it very easy to import old projects from ArcMap into ArcPro. So once we open that, what I do is I go back to my folder tab, into Training 2022, and this right here, Training Project 22.mxd, this is my old ArcMap map document. So if I click on that and hit OK, this is going to import my old ArcMap into ArcPro. This is so much easier than it was the last time they updated. This is very handy. And now we have our project. Once it's updated, it's really easy to hit the save button and save it right here. Now your ArcMap project has been migrated into ArcPro and it's saved. From here, you can start using your ArcPro project. One of the major differences in ArcMap versus ArcPro is they've split out a lot of the tools into different tabs. So the map tab is your default tab when you're doing your day-to-day searching and queries into your map viewer. And some of these tools look real familiar. We have our zoom to full extent, our zoom in, our zoom out. We have bookmarks and select and select by attributes. All this stuff looks familiar. Measure tool is right here. Locate. We'll talk about these in a minute. But the insert tab, this is what we were using. This is the default when you open it, so you can set your project parameters up correctly. This is also where you can create a brand new map or a new layout if you want to. Analysis has more to do with in-depth GIS analysis. The View tab, this is where you just view different portions of ArcGIS, the different windows. Like you have catalog pane. This is the catalog pane right here in the catalog view. We can open that up. And we can see it's real similar to the catalog pane, but it just gives us a separate way to view this information. The catalog is a lot like File Explorer in Windows. Edit, this is the one you'll probably be using the most if you're doing any editing of your data. And we have a whole bunch of tools here. Move, annotate, edit vertices, reshape, split tool. We can even open this up. This is a list of all the different tools. Some of these are quite handy. And some of these are new to ArcPro. Sequential numbering is really handy. Divide is also a really handy one as well. Imagery. This has to do with raster imagery. You probably won't be using this a lot. And then the last one is share. Once you get your web map done, you can share this web map out into ArcGIS Online. And what that means is we can take this data, this map that we've created, share it to ArcGIS Online, and we can share this with other people in our organization or even with people from other organizations. So this is a very handy tool. Here we can also, we can do printing, or we can export information out. So sharing is really handy, but we'll talk about sharing web maps. In the meantime, let's get started on just a few of the tools. One of the major differences between ArcPro and ArcMap is the Explore tool. This used to be called the Identify tool in ArcMap. This has been combined into the Pan tool. If we zoom in, we can pan around, and the Identify tool. So we can click on information, and it will identify. And if we do this, the default is visible layers. So if I click on my green dot here, what this is going to do is it's going to drill down in ArcGIS and bring back a result for every layer that it comes in contact with. So this is drilled down and found address points, parcels, section lines, townships, and our Connington SID image. And that is handy if we're looking for all of that information. But what I like to do is change this up a little bit. One of the new options is to choose Selected in Contents. And this is our table of contents. So what that means is if I select it and make address points active and I click on it, address points is the only thing that is going to return a result. If I click over here, I get nothing. It's easy enough to switch this if I want to identify parcels. All we have to do is click on the parcels and identify, and we'll get those instead. So it involves a little more interaction between our table of contents and our map view, but I like having it this way because I only like to see what I want to see. Another interesting thing about ArcPro is the number of base maps that we have. One of the default ones is imagery. So we can turn our imagery on, and this is going to throw their world imagery out here. And what I'll do is I'll shut off my Connington 2021, and let's just turn that on and shut it off again, just so you can see the difference. World imagery is a little bit different. And it draws fairly fast in ArcPro. So this is a viable image data set that you can use. Gives you one more thing to add over and above our farm services data. Or you can change this to terrain with labels or any of the base map options. One of the ones that I like to look at is the USA topo maps. You can see topology lines in the data. So that's handy, and you can always just shut that off down here and turn on your photography. If you got FSA data or if you have Eagle View, that information is here too. The measure tool will allow you to measure either lines, or it will allow you to measure area. So we'll talk about that. Let's change this to feet and zoom in, and we'll just do a measurement. You can see that it's about 2,600 feet, which makes sense. If I double click that line stays out there right up until I clear the results. And if I want to, I can measure area as well. And we can change our unit of measure to acres if we want to. So if we want to measure acres, we can see that we got about 49 acres in this square. Pretty handy. The locate tool is another useful feature when you're just trying to get around an ArcMap. But one thing that I will suggest is using layer search instead of just regular search. That shows up here. Locate is mostly geographic only. So if you're looking for latitude and longitude, you can do a locate. But if you're looking for data, like say you want to look up all of the properties that are owned by a particular person, you'd use layer search. Or if you were to look things up by parcel ID, layer search is the way to go. And let's just do a quick search. I'll pick on myself. I'm searching for Hartley and I'm not getting any results. And so what that means is I probably got my options set a little too tight. So we'll click on the options and we'll see that we are searching in all layers. We're searching for all the features, but this is what's holding me up. You see where it says match exact? Odds are good that when I'm doing a search in this data, the owner name isn't going to show up as Hartley. There's going to be a first name and a last name, and that's what's holding us up. So what I'll do is we'll change this to match any part, and we'll just hit enter. And this has returned quite a few different results for us. Once we have these returned, we can zoom to each one, or we can show the details. This is going to give us our pop-up that shows the information, or we could even add it to selection and select that data. And as you see right down here, we have one selected feature, and it is showing up in highlighted blue. When you have selected features, a good way to view that data is by using the attributes pane. So we'll click on this and we'll get the attributes pane up. And this is another way of looking at it, similar to a pop-up. The only real difference is you can edit this data. And that is both good and bad. We will talk a little bit about editing this data in a minute, but we can do our select features, and we can just draw a box around this area, and you can see that we'll select all the features that are here. If you want to zoom to those, you just hit this button right down here, and it will zoom you to all those features. The next thing that I want to talk about is selecting features. You can manage the features that you can set as selectable right here in the table of contents by clicking List by Selection. The parcels is the only thing that I have checked right now. That means I can only select parcel information. But if I want to, I can shut off the parcels and turn on address points. And I can draw that's a similar box, and I'll just get the address points returned. If I have them both on and do that selection, then I'll get both. And this is a handy tool as long as you know what you're doing. Because as I've mentioned, in ArcPro, there is no start editing button like there is in ArcMap. In ArcPro, you're always editing. So you can do damage to your data fairly quick if you're not aware of that. And this is what I mean. This right here is the List by Editing button. And when I click that, you can see that every one of these is checked. This is how it came in by default. So all of this data is editable. And I doubt that you want to edit all of it. In fact, the only ones that should be checked are the ones that you're actively editing. So you should shut off all these data layers if you're not going to edit anything. This eliminates any chance that you would mistakenly make an edit. And then you turn them on as you want to do editing. So you can still select stuff and it'll still show up in your attribute viewer. You just can't make changes. See if I try to type in here, I can't type in it. So it's very handy. One thing that you have to watch out for, and I'll do a quick example of it. So let's say we have our address points active, and we have our parcels are editable as well. And then see how we have both of these selectable. So if I go up and I hit my select features, and I want to move this address point, so we go to our edit, and we click our move button. And it's really easy to move stuff and do edits. I have it selected, and when I hit the move, you can see this yellow dot that shows up and this little box down at the bottom. This allows me to do edits, so I can grab this, and maybe I want to drag it over here. And when I hit check OK, it moves the address point, but it moved my parcel as well. So if you only wanted to move your address point, but you didn't want to move the parcels, you wound up grabbing them both and moving them over here, this is bad. And it will ruin your day if you don't catch this early on. So you have to be very careful with your editing. Fortunately, there are a couple different ways to back out of this. You can either use the undo button. This will put it back where it was. We'll redo it. Or you can use the discard edits feature. So this one's handy too. We can discard that. And the last discard all edits, you say yes. And it'll put it back where it was. Otherwise, if you wanted to make that, if you really did want to make that change, we'll do it the right way. We'll unselect the parcels. So we'll go back over here and do a select features. We're editing the address points. If we select move, then we can move this, and now it's moved over here. Once you have your thing moved and it is where you want it to be, and you want to save that, then you want to hit the save button right here, and this will save that edit. So that is how you get around in ArcGIS. I'm trying to keep this relatively short. There's a lot more that can be gone over using ArcMap. It is a handy tool. It's new. A lot of really interesting features in this. You can use this to do parcel splits. You can do a lot of neat stuff, and I recommend that for you. The last thing that I will talk about is this. When you are done with your project, the share button will allow you to share this web map out to ArcGIS Online. And what that means is this. Once you share your data to ArcGIS Online, it's going to create a web map out there, and you will be able to share your web map with other people in your organization or with other people outside of your organization. Those people all need to have Esri logins as well. Or you could even share it with the public, which means everyone can look at it. So everybody in your county or community can look at this, but people outside your community can too. So it is really handy, and I will talk about this in my next video. I hope this was intuitive, and thank you for watching.